got you 10,000 in cash. You can do whatever you want with it." Those were the words Dishai Stevenson whispered to her husband as she handed him a Bible stuffed with money in a Jamaica hotel room. But what she didn't know was that the man smiling back at her was already planning her murder. This isn't just another domestic violence story. This is the disturbing tale of how a millionaire businesswoman became so psychologically manipulated that she literally paid a convicted felon to marry her, funded his entire lifestyle, and ignored every warning sign until it was too late. Here's what makes this case absolutely chilling. Dishai picked Michael Smith up from prison on May 17th, 2021. 7 days later, they were married. But here's the part that will make your blood run cold. Her own family members say she told them just days before her death, "I feel like I'm going to die." She knew. Deep down, she knew what was coming. The surveillance footage shows everything. Her getting into his car, the argument, him driving away, and then, just minutes later, her lifeless body being discovered on Murdoch Road with a single gunshot wound to the chest and only one sandal on her foot. The other sandal, still in his car, along with her blood and the bullet casing. But what the cameras didn't capture is even more disturbing. The years of psychological warfare, the social media posts that scream danger, the rap lyrics where he literally talks about increasing the murder rate, the PCP addiction, the financial abuse disguised as love. This woman built a business empire, owned multiple properties, and had everything going for her. Yet she became so trauma-bonded to a man who saw her as nothing more than a meal ticket that she ignored her own intuition screaming at her to run. What you're about to witness will shatter everything you think you know about smart women making stupid choices. Because Dishai wasn't stupid. She was strategically broken down by a master manipulator who knew exactly which buttons to push. If you've ever ignored red flags in a relationship, or know someone who has, this story will haunt you. But here's what's disturbing. 73% of people watching this won't subscribe, even though they'll watch until the end and be completely shocked by what unfolds. Don't be part of that statistic if this story matters to you, because what happened next will leave you speechless. To understand how a woman like Dishai Stevenson could fall victim to such calculated manipulation, you need to understand who she really was. This wasn't some naive girl looking for love. This was a powerhouse businesswoman who had built an empire from absolutely nothing. Dishai grew up in Dallas, Texas, in a small, close-knit family where she learned the meaning of hustle and self-sufficiency from her mother at an early age. After graduating from high school, she didn't wait for opportunities. She created them. She started her own business because she knew that owning her own company was the only way to secure herself and her family financially. Like most entrepreneurs, she started small, selling clothing and accessories from her apartment. But Dishai had something special, vision and relentless drive. As demand for her products increased, she consistently expanded her inventory, adding men's clothing, handbags, eyelashes, and more. She opened a storefront, and by May 2022, she had secured an even bigger location to accommodate her growing merchandise empire. But Dishai wasn't just a retailer. She completed her tax course in 2021 and joined forces with unlimited taxes and more, extending her business prowess because she had goals and was always working to improve and up-level herself financially. She was business savvy, wearing her own clothing pieces and showcasing them on social media. With her perfect figure, almost everything she wore, she sold. There's no doubt she was destined to be the successful businesswoman she became, and she was just scratching the surface of what she could accomplish. However, success came with a price. Dishai was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She had a beautiful 17-year-old daughter, Maya, who meant everything to her. But even more challenging, she was the primary caregiver for her mother, who had suffered a stroke and was partially paralyzed. Imagine the pressure, running multiple businesses while caring for a disabled parent and raising a teenager as a single mother. This is where psychology becomes crucial. Successful women like Dishai often develop what experts call a savior complex. They're so used to fixing everything, providing for everyone, and being the strong one that they're drawn to broken men who need rescuing. It makes them feel needed, valuable, and in control. But here's the twisted part. These broken men know exactly how to exploit this weakness. Enter Michael Smith, also known as Miracle Mike. While Dishai was building her empire, Michael was building a criminal record. In 2016, he got into serious trouble with the law and was arrested, charged, convicted, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. 5 years. This wasn't some minor offense. This was serious criminal behavior that required significant prison time. But here's where it gets psychologically fascinating. Instead of seeing his criminal history as a red flag, Dishai saw it as an opportunity to be his savior. She stood by him throughout his entire prison sentence, visiting him as often as she could, sending him money, and planning their future together. She literally put her life on hold for a convicted felon. What Dishai didn't understand was that she was dealing with a textbook covert narcissist. Unlike overt narcissists who are obviously arrogant and demanding, covert narcissists are masters of manipulation. They present themselves as victims, as misunderstood souls who just need the right woman to save them. They're charming, they love bomb their targets, and they know exactly how to make successful. Independent women feel like they're the only ones who truly understand them. Michael had a troubled childhood. He claimed he'd been taking care of himself since he was 11 years old and had a terrible relationship with his father. But instead of using these experiences to build character and resilience, he used them as manipulation tools to gain sympathy and control over empathetic women like Dishai. The stage was perfectly set. A successful woman with a savior complex meets a master manipulator fresh out of prison. What happened next was a psychological masterclass in destruction. May 17th, 2021. This is the day that sealed Dishai Stevenson's fate, though she had no idea at the time. The footage of her picking up Michael Smith from prison is absolutely chilling when you know how the story ends. Watch her excitement as she drives to the prison facility. She's done her makeup perfectly. She's dressed to impress, and she's practically glowing with anticipation. "I got my face, my makeup done and stuff just to go pick him up," she says during a live stream. But here's what's disturbing. She's treating this like she's picking up a celebrity, not a convicted felon who just served 5 years behind bars. The moment Michael walks out of those prison doors, you can see the psychological manipulation begin immediately. He's calm, almost detached, while she's practically bouncing with joy. "We got ours, babe," she tells him excitedly.
It's your first gift. Okay. Yeah. My birthday in 7 days.
Oh, you set me up.
Turn to how the got the blue light on the roof. Yep. Is that the same one you had before you went in?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm trying to see if that's pretty good. That's 100 grams on your wrist. You like 100 grams?
Hey, great.
It is. What you think about the first gift, baby? Let me see that. What you think? Do it remind you of the one that you had at first, baby? It don't change, you know, gold and stuff don't change in that 7 years, 8 years. What you think about your first gift?
But watch his body language carefully. There's no matching enthusiasm, no gratitude, no appreciation for the woman who waited for him and is now giving him his freedom ride. During the drive back to Dallas, she's talking about steaks, about having a good trip, about all the plans she's made. Meanwhile, he's barely engaged, answering in short phrases, already establishing the dynamic that would define their entire relationship. Her giving everything, him taking it all as if he deserves it. But here's where this story takes its first shocking turn. 7 days. That's all it took. 7 days after picking him up from prison, on May 24th, 2021, they were married at a Dallas courthouse. Let that sink in for a moment. This woman waited 5 years for this man, and within 1 week of his release, she legally bound herself to him for life. This is textbook love bombing at its most dangerous. Love bombing is a manipulation tactic where the abuser overwhelms their victim with excessive affection, attention, and promises to create an intense emotional bond quickly. Michael knew exactly what he was doing. Fresh out of prison with nothing to his name, he needed to secure his meal ticket immediately. But here's red flag number 1 that everyone should have seen. Why the rush? When someone truly loves you and wants to spend their life with you. They don't need to lock you down within a week. Healthy relationships develop over time. This wasn't love. This was desperation disguised as romance, and strategic manipulation disguised as passion. The courthouse wedding was just the beginning. Dishai, being the successful businesswoman she was, couldn't settle for a simple courthouse ceremony. She had to make it special. She had to make it memorable, and most importantly, she had to pay for everything. On September 11th, 2022, she threw them a luxury wedding that Michael himself described as extravagant. She paid for the venue, the decorations, the food, the drinks, and even the clothes and shoes he wore to their own wedding. Think about that. A grown man couldn't even afford his own wedding attire. But in Dishai's mind, this wasn't a red flag. This was her showing love, her being supportive, her investing in their future together. What she didn't realize was that she had just entered into a business transaction disguised as a marriage, where she would be the sole investor and he would be the only beneficiary. The countdown to her murder had officially begun. The Jamaica vacation footage is perhaps the most disturbing piece of evidence in this entire case, not because of what happened, but because of what it reveals about their twisted dynamic. This wasn't just a birthday trip. This was a masterclass in financial manipulation disguised as love. Picture this. Dishai has flown her husband to Jamaica for his birthday, paying for everything: flights, luxury hotel, meals, activities. But that's not enough for her. She's planned something she thinks will blow his mind. She's sitting on the hotel bed, practically vibrating with excitement, holding what appears to be an ordinary Bible. "I got you a Bible for your birthday, baby. Got to keep God first," she says, her voice trembling with anticipation. But this isn't just any Bible. It's a hollowed-out safe, and inside is $10,000 in cash plus a diamond ring. $10,000 in cash for a man who contributed absolutely nothing to their relationship financially. Watch Michael's reaction carefully. While Dishai is practically bouncing off the walls with excitement, he's sitting there with the emotional range of a piece of furniture. No shock, no overwhelming gratitude, no tears of joy. Just a casual thank you, as if she'd handed him a sandwich. This is red flag number 2 screaming at maximum volume, his complete lack of appreciation for her extraordinary generosity. "I don't know what you're going to do. You can do whatever you want to do with it," she tells him, essentially giving him carte blanche with $10,000 of her hard-earned money. But here's what's chilling. She feels the need to justify this massive gift. She's not giving it because he deserves it or earned it. She's giving it because she's desperately trying to buy his love and attention. The body language analysis is devastating. Dishai is leaning toward him, touching him, seeking validation and connection. Michael is leaning away, distracted, already thinking about what he's going to do with the money, rather than appreciating the woman who gave it to him. When she tries to show off his new ring to the camera, he's barely participating, more interested in counting the cash. "I can lose everything today. I know I'll get it back just because of you," she says, and those words are prophetic in the most tragic way possible. She literally believed this man was her good luck charm, her blessing, when in reality he was her curse. This pattern of one-sided financial investment had been going on since the day she picked him up from prison. She bought the house. She paid for the wedding. She funded the vacations. She bought his clothes. She gave him spending money. Meanwhile, what was Michael contributing? Absolutely nothing except his presence, which he treated like a favor he was doing her. The Jamaica footage shows a woman so desperate for love that she's literally paying for it, and a man so entitled that he believes he deserves every penny without giving anything in return. This wasn't a marriage. It was a financial hostage situation where the victim was paying her own ransom. Social media never lies, and Dishai's Facebook posts from 2023 tell a story more chilling than any horror movie. What started as glowing tributes to her perfect husband slowly transformed into desperate cries for help that nobody recognized until it was too late. By October 13th, 2023, just 11 days before her murder, Dishai posted something that should have sent alarm bells ringing. "Y'all got to stop thinking all your blessings coming from God. The devil will bless you too." This wasn't random spiritual commentary. This was a woman realizing she had been deceived by someone she thought was a gift from heaven. The very next day, October 14th, Her post became even more telling. Sometimes you got to blame yourself because you knew better. Accountability. She was starting to wake up to the reality that she had ignored every red flag, every warning sign, every gut instinct that told her this man was dangerous. But the most heartbreaking post came earlier that year, and it reveals the exact moment Dishai realized she was dying inside. I'm mentally at a place where I can't afford to freely give anymore. If I love you, I need for you to love me back. If I care about you, I need for you to care about me too. If I sacrifice for you, I need sacrifices in return. If I protect you, I need to be protected as well. My mental capacity won't allow me to keep pouring from an empty cup. I can't afford to accept one-sided love and energy anymore. This wasn't just a Facebook post. This was a woman's soul crying out for help. She had finally recognized that she was in a relationship where she was giving everything and receiving nothing. But recognizing the problem and having the strength to leave are two completely different things, especially when you're dealing with a master manipulator. Meanwhile, Michael's social media presence was telling a completely different story, one that should have terrified anyone paying attention. His posts read like a serial killer's manifesto. My intake of anger may cause me to have an unwanted outburst, and trust me, I don't know what I said afterwards. Frankly, I give no F*********. This man was literally warning the world that he was capable of violence and didn't care about the consequences. But it gets worse. His rap lyrics were even more disturbing. I don't deserve the hate, so I'm increasing the murder rate. Let that sink in. He was literally rapping about increasing the murder rate. This was an artistic expression. This was a confession waiting to happen. Then there's his December 31st post that reveals his true predatory nature. Soft voice mixed with humbleness can be mistaken as vulnerability, but don't allow the light voice to fool you. I'm a lion in disguise. You may be mistaken as a meal. He was telling the world exactly what he was, a predator who saw people as prey. And Dishai was his primary meal. Red flag number 3 was his substance abuse, specifically his PCP usage. There's actually footage of Michael casually discussing PCP with his father, treating this dangerous hallucinogenic drug like it's marijuana. PCP is known to cause violent behavior, paranoia, and complete disconnection from reality. This man was regularly using a drug that turns people into monsters, and Dishai knew it. But perhaps the most chilling revelation came from her sister Jasmine's interview. On October 21st, just 3 days before her murder, Dishai called her sister to wish her happy birthday. During that conversation, she said something that still haunts her family. "Sister, I feel like I'm finna die." Her sister brushed it off, thinking it was just Dishai being dramatic. But this wasn't drama. This was intuition. This was her subconscious mind recognizing the danger her conscious mind refused to accept. Women's intuition is real, and Dishai was screaming at her that she was in mortal danger. By October 18th, she was posting, "Never be afraid to start over," as if she was trying to give herself permission to leave. But it was too late. Michael had already decided that if he couldn't have her, nobody could. October 24th, 2023. This date will forever be etched in the minds of everyone who loved Dishai Stevenson. It was the day a master manipulator's mask finally came off completely, revealing the monster underneath. After days of arguing back and forth, with Dishai being adamant that she wanted a divorce, Michael made what seemed like a reasonable request. He asked her to meet him at his father's housing complex at Pleasant Village Apartments so they could talk about their marriage one final time. To Dishai, this probably seemed like progress, her husband finally wanting to have an adult conversation about their relationship. But Michael had already made his decision. He had been using PCP in the moments before asking her to meet him, because that's how he coped with anything serious he had to deal with. This wasn't going to be a conversation about saving their marriage. This was going to be a conversation about whether she would live or die. The surveillance footage from Pleasant Village Apartments tells the entire story, and it's absolutely chilling. The cameras captured both of their vehicles arriving at the complex around the same time. You can see Dishai park her car, get out, and walk over to Michael's vehicle. She gets in, probably thinking they're about to have the most important conversation of their marriage. What the cameras show next is a car sitting stationary for several minutes. Inside that car, Michael was asking Dishai one final time if she was really going to leave him. When she said yes, that she had to leave for her own sanity and her daughter's sake, he made his choice. The surveillance footage shows Michael's car leaving the parking lot, driving away from the complex with Dishai inside. What happened next wasn't captured on camera, but the evidence tells the horrific story. On a lonely stretch of road, away from witnesses, Michael pulled out his gun, put it directly to Dishai's chest, and pulled the trigger. Then, in an act of pure evil, he pulled over and threw her body out of the car like she was garbage. She was found with only one sandal on her foot. The other one was still in his car, along with her blood and the bullet casing that would seal his fate. But here's what makes this even more disturbing. Immediately after murdering his wife, Michael drove back to the apartment complex, parked his car, and went for a casual walk. During this walk, he encountered Dishai's brother and sister, who were already looking for her because she hadn't picked up her daughter as planned. "Have you seen Dishai?" they asked him. "No, I haven't seen her. I have no idea where she is," he lied, looking them straight in the eyes. This man had just murdered their sister, and he was standing there pretending to be concerned about her whereabouts. He continued his charade, even helping them search for her, before eventually ending up at his barbershop. That's where police found him hours later, still acting like the worried husband, when in reality he was a cold-blooded killer who had just destroyed an entire family. The investigation that followed was swift and devastating, building an airtight case against Michael Smith that would be impossible to deny. It started with the family's worst nightmare and ended with irrefutable evidence of premeditated murder. By midnight on October 24th, Dishai's 17-year-old daughter Maya was panicking. Her mother had dropped her off at her grandmother's house earlier that day and was supposed to pick her up that afternoon. But it was now approaching midnight, and Maya had been calling her mom since 4 p.m. with no response. This was completely out of character for Dishai, who always answered her daughter's calls. Maya reached out to her Aunt Jasmine, but she wasn't picking up either. Finally, she called her uncle's girlfriend, who immediately recognized that something was terribly wrong. Dishai never left her daughter stranded, and she never left her partially paralyzed mother without care. The family began searching through the night, and in the early morning hours of October 25th, they made a chilling discovery. Dishai's car was found abandoned at the Pleasant Village Apartments, the exact location where Michael had asked her to meet him. Her cousin Nita, a criminal justice major, immediately noticed something disturbing. "I seen a big handprint on the driver window, and you know, I'm a criminal justice major, so I start trying to use different context clues." Within minutes of finding her car, they saw a community blog post about a woman found shot to death just 3 minutes away near Lincoln Memorial Cemetery. Their hearts sank as they rushed to the scene, where officers confirmed their worst fears. The surveillance footage from Pleasant Village Apartments became the smoking gun. It clearly showed both vehicles arriving, Dishai getting into Michael's car, them sitting there for several minutes in what appeared to be an argument, and then his car driving away with her inside. When police secured a search warrant for Michael's home, the evidence was overwhelming. His car was parked in the driveway with blood clearly visible on the passenger seat. A bullet shell casing was found in the driver's seat, and most damning of all, a sandal matching the one Dishai was wearing when found was still inside his vehicle. Investigators discovered multiple weapons throughout his house, painting a picture of a man who was always prepared for violence. Michael was arrested at the barbershop, where he had been casually hanging out, still under the influence of PCP. He was charged with murder and is currently being held on a $1 million bond, awaiting trial for the cold-blooded execution of the woman who gave him everything. Dishai Stevenson's murder was preventable. Every single warning sign was there, screaming at maximum volume, but like so many intelligent women before her, she ignored her own intuition and paid the ultimate price. Here's what could have saved her life. First, never marry someone within 7 days of meeting them again after a 5-year separation. That's not love. That's desperation and manipulation. Second, when someone shows you through their actions that they don't appreciate your sacrifices, believe them. Michael's complete lack of gratitude for the $10,000 birthday gift wasn't just rudeness. It was a preview of how little he valued her life. Third, and this is crucial, when your gut tells you, "I feel like I'm going to die," Listen to it. Women's intuition isn't mystical nonsense. It's your subconscious mind processing danger signals your conscious mind is ignoring. Dishai told her sister she felt like she was going to die just 3 days before Michael murdered her. That wasn't coincidence. That was her survival instincts trying to save her. Fourth, never meet an abusive partner alone when you're trying to leave them. The most dangerous time for a domestic violence victim is when they're attempting to exit the relationship. Dishai should have filed for divorce through an attorney and never agreed to that final meeting. But here's the most important lesson. Stop trying to save broken men. Michael's criminal history, substance abuse, violent social media posts, and complete financial dependence weren't challenges to overcome. They were warnings to run. You cannot love someone into being a better person, and trying to do so might cost you your life. The warning signs were everywhere. Rushed marriage, one-sided financial support, substance abuse, violent ideation in his music and posts, controlling behavior, and her own intuition screaming danger. Every single red flag was waving, but love bombing and trauma bonding made her ignore them all. Dishai's story isn't just entertainment. It's a warning that could save lives. But here's what's heartbreaking. Thousands will watch this, feel moved by her story, yet won't take 2 seconds to subscribe to help us share more stories like this. If you're someone who actually cares about preventing these tragedies, prove it. Subscribe now. And if you're not going to subscribe, at least tell us why in the comments. Because frankly, I don't understand how you can be moved by Dishai's story, but not want to help us tell more stories that could save other women's lives. What's your excuse?